Everybody, we're here with Harry Burkholder of the Burkholder Brothers AA Fuel Altered. All of you guys have seen him on our page. He posts quite a bit on there. There's no surprises to who he is. And I know one guy who's watching right now, Mikey Horn, is a tremendous fan, and I'm just giving you a quick shout out. So what we want to ask Harry here to start with is, how did the family get started in altered racing?
Well, a couple of kids. I was 17 years old, my brother 18, and believe it or not, I got too many speeding tickets with my street car, lost my license, and our cousins, who are Dry Lakes guys, they said, build a race car. So they donated a set of Model A frame rails, and my brother donated a beautiful 34 Ford Coupe, and we ordered supercharger, fuel injections, magneto, and stuff that all came in boxes, trying to figure out how to put it together. That was 1959.
59.
Yeah. And then from then, we've had about 7 cars. And back then, NHRA required steel bodies.
Yep.
And so the first one was a beautiful 34 that got cut up. And the next one was a Fiat. We had a steel-bodied Fiat. And then my brother got drafted, and I continued to run a little bit. And they let us put glass bodies on in '63. So they put when you see pictures of the Bantam car,
yeah,
that's that same chassis with the glass body on it.
How much did that lighten that car up? Quite a bit.
Oh yeah, couple hundred pounds.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it was, the fuel body was heavy.
Yep.
And then from there, that chassis, they had the Drag News list, a Challenger list.
Okay.
And some fellas, Don Argy and Lawrence Brocchini in Sacramento, they got voted on that list, but they sold their car. So we put their Hemi in our car and put a 27 body on it, and that was the first roadster to go 171 in Alliance. Yeah. And then we ran with that thing one year.
Yep. And
we won the March meet in '63 with it. And then by that time I was building our monster Olds motor, and it was incredible. We raised the ports up to divide them, and I made some offset valve guides. We moved the valves over, bigger valves, opened up the chambers, and I don't know, I had about 90 hours of grinding on those heads. But believe it or not, that Oldsmobile engine went runner-up to Willie Borsch at Irwindale. Okay?
Really?
Yeah, and it was our gas injector system running alcohol and 10% nitro. The car went 202 miles an hour.
10% nitro. Wow.
Yeah. And then after that,
okay, just as a caveat, what was Willie doing at the time? Well, they were running a 392 in that thing, right?
Everybody else was 392.
And what were they running for nitro? Were they all?
Probably where we ended up, about 80%, something like that.
Okay.
You got to remember, this was before the tire wars in the early 70s, where the tires got bigger.
Yep.
And of course the altered had no traction, and you're trying to figure the clutch out by that time. So.
We haven't gotten to this body yet. We're still with, was it the Bantam yet at that point?
Well, we went from the Bantam, sold that one, and we built this chassis. I built this chassis in 1968.
And you built this yourself, right?
In a little 2-car garage, and it had the Oldsmobile, the monster, 5/8 stroke 394 Oldsmobile, 478 inches, something like that. And we were still running a AA gas altered. And then here comes all of the 16-car shows, and we're going a couple rounds on alcohol with those guys, and we said, okay. By this time we had machine shop sponsors, and you go to a wrecking yard for $50 to get a 392. Had a crank built. We run the 392 with 3/8 stroke, 30 overboard, and that was our combination. And we did that in late '69. And our first year running learning fuel, we won the March meet in 1970. And in '71, we put this body on, and we set the record at Orange County.
So the chassis that this is the chassis you won in 1970, but it wasn't this body on the car.
That's correct. We
Okay.
had that touring car body.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was my favorite car, but my brother wanted a Fiat flip-up because we were in the clutch.
A pain in the ass to work on it, right?
So that was the evolution. Just a couple kids in NorCal, 400 miles away from Mecca.
That's exactly right, isn't it? Mecca. That's a good word for it.
Anyways, my brother Pete has been gone for 22 years now, and he was a glue. He worked at Tognani Speed Shop, and I worked at Procter & Gamble. I joke, I said I worked in the soap factory, and we raced on the weekends, and he kept the parts coming, and he was a logistics man and a painter, an incredible painter.
So when did the era of the altered really start to die off? I mean, as far as competitiveness on the West Coast.
We had a situation where NHRA was developing their pro category. Top Fuel, Funny Car, and Pro Stock came in, and the fuel altereds got delegated to a combo deal.
Okay.
And so what happened was that happened right at the era where we had the Orange County record at 706, but then we had to race these guys in the combo handicap deal at Sacramento Raceway, our backyard. And we could only go 718, 720 there, and so we didn't have a chance. And that happened to everybody. A lot of guys swung over to funny cars, and we followed that path. But it was getting pretty serious then. You had to couldn't quit your job, and
I suppose.
Yep.
So through the let's say the later 70s and into the 80s, did this car do anything during that time? Just exhibition runs, or were you competitive?
We sold the car in 1973.
Okay.
And we just right here the way it sits, and we teamed up with three brothers in Sacramento. My brother and I, and three Spiegel brothers, and they were at M&M Speed Shop, the competition to Tognati's, and they put together a John Shoemaker up in Sacramento.
Okay.
The first funny car chassis he built was for John, Steve, and Dick Spiegel.
Okay.
Now they come to us and says, of all the people in NorCal that we want to team up with, it'd be you guys. And so that begat the Brotherhood funny car. It was heavy, it was tall, it was outdated by the time it got on the track, and the handwriting was on the wall. Steve wanted to. He said, I'll build a new car hauler, and I'll put together a competitive chassis. And we were going to go Donovan and go racing. And then my brother Pete had a little guy, about 4 years old then, and he goes, I'm not going to be able to do this. And I had to say, okay, if you're not here, then we're gone. So that was 74.
74.
Yeah.
Well, let's move forward real quick. I saw pictures, and you were posting. You guys have built a new altered, competitive now. You plan on racing this thing. What's the future look like for that, and when's it going to hit the track?
Well, we had a partnership, engine partnership deal that folded up for various reasons, and I was kind of left with the car. And Wade Ramsey in Yuba City built the car. It's beautiful, and they approached me and said, we want to build a tribute car, and what do we need to do? And I said, it's got to be the safest thing we can build. It's got to be competitive, and we got to have fun. And so we tested the car, and Ron Capps drove it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he saw the build pictures, and his dream was to.
That's why he posted that. Now I know. I saw him post some pictures.
Yeah, he cackled the car at Sonoma for us once. It was a big hit. He tested the car, and we had it pretty much dialed in. It was in primer, nothing was chromed. And then we tore it apart, and then our engine guy went a different direction, and I was kind of stuck. I'll be 82 in May, and I couldn't physically do it, and I don't have the shop for it. And so we got parked. A whole bunch of people were trying to figure out how to get us out there. And finally, Bill Wyndham, that has the Shakedown Nostalgia Funny Car, a real good buddy of Ron Capps, said he wanted to build a true nostalgia 6.0 car, and Ron says he wanted to go to Wade Ramsey again because he saw our build pictures, and Ron says, let me call Harry, that car might be available. So I got a phone call, and he says, call Bill, and Bill says, he was just a little kid when we raced in Sacramento. He remembers this car.
Yeah.
And so he said, let's figure something out. And I had to let it go. If I wanted to see it out there in my lifetime, I had to let it go. And it's in good hands.
That's good.
They fired it up the other day. He's got a problem with some parts that are dubious. He got some connecting rod problems. And he's got 8 sets of rods he can't run. And
I heard about that incident.
Yeah, so we're basically waiting for rods. But he fired it up the other day. The whole crew was there and on alcohol to check everything out. And he's excited and ready to go. So.
Okay, so Ron Capp's name is in the. I know Ron drove. What was it? The Good News.
The Good News.
I saw video on him, and he said it was just more fun than he could have on an NHRA track at a national event. So, is he the one who's going to try to sit in the seat of this car?
Well, Bill's going to shake it down.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to hand over anything that he doesn't trust.
Yeah.
But Ron did the test laps in that car, and he goes, "Whoa, this thing is so cool." But then our partnership fell apart with our engine deal.
Yeah.
We were supposed to deliver the car to him for the March meet 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I got a phone call, and he says, "What's happening with the car?" And I said, "Well, it's a mess right now. We're parked." And he goes, "Well, I've got an offer, and you know my bucket list is to drive a field alder at the March meet." And he said, "The Good News Coupe people, Hall and that group want me to drive." And I said, "Man, go for it." And darned if you didn't go out and win it.
I know, that was some good video too on him.
Cool.
I really enjoyed that. I know he did too.
Yeah.
So the Tribute, I just want to make sure we get this right. The Tribute car that's being built now is really completely out of Burkholder's hands, right?
That's correct. When I talked with Bill, he says, I don't need a partner. He says, you know how that works.
Yeah.
So, and I said, well, you know what, if it's ever going to get out there, I'm going to have to let it go. And so we picked a number and basically gave it to him. He wants us all to be there, through the whole thing, and it's going to be cool.
That'll be fun.
Because he's got the crew, the wherewithal to do it.
Yeah. He's already got an existing crew, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. That's half the battle, I think, is having good people around
There
here,
you go.
isn't it? So.
And then Dennis Scroggins, a fellow that helps us out here and saves me, he's part of that crew for the funny car, and then he will dual duty. Bill wants to run them both at the same time. We had basically four short blocks built matching.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 for the funny car, 2 for the altered, and then lots of spares behind that. And the idea is to literally be able to swap parts around.
Well, so that what that tells me is they're going to be competitive. Then they really are going to be competitive. That's good to hear.
Yeah,
I'm glad to hear that. Well, this has been Harry Burkholder. You can see the car right behind me. We're going to track down a couple of his other guys that are part of this whole organization here and have a chat with them in a minute. Harry, I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, man.
I'm hoping to see you maybe at the March meet.
That we're hoping for.
All right, so we're still here in the Burkholder pits. Robert Rio is joining us now. He's part of this team. Harry just told me that you came on, well, you saw the Burkholder car. When did this all happen for you? How old were you?
The very first race I went to, I was 8 years old. It was the 1968 March meet in Bakersfield.
Okay, so a lot of history here, and now he's part of the crew. What exactly? When did you actually become active with these guys? Is it recently, or did it happen back then?
No, it happened back then. I would just, wipe tires and stand around and stuff and just be part of it. I loved it. The first time I went, I was just mesmerized by this. And so I started probably putting my hands on the car a little bit when I was probably at the 70 March meet.
Okay.
The first time.
It's one of those great pieces of history of drag racing that most people in the modern era don't know. there were guys like you, me, that were lining up to be tire wipers and to help push a car back, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it made running these teams a little bit easier back then, where you didn't have to pay 30 people to be part of your team. But anyway, so what, as you progressed through it, what did your functions become with the team?
I just a hand, just whenever they needed something. But he had a full crew of people back then that really knew the engines and stuff like that. And I was just basically hanging around and enjoying it, taking it all in, and I was mesmerized by all of it.
To put it in perspective, Robert's my younger cousin. His dad, Dick Richardville's my older cousin. And every time we came down south, we would grab Robert at home and take him to the races. Mom and Dad would come out later, and that became our routine. And he even come back up to Sacramento if we had a race in Fremont, Sacramento. He would come back up with us. That little guy.
That's cool. So Harry just told me, that they sold the car in 73. And what happened to you at that point?
Well, I hung around. I still kept going to the races, and he kind of wanted to keep everything kind of away. He didn't want to get hooked back in, I think. And then over time, I basically hooked up with Bob and Heather Sanders, and they had an alcohol car, and I helped with them for a while, and then eventually hooked up with Roland and the Hawaiian Punch deal, and when he had that going on, and ran with those guys for almost the entire time of the Hawaiian Punch funny car years. And
Johnny West?
Johnny West was driving it when I first got there. Rick Johnson was the first guy, Johnny West, and then Jim White.
Yep.
And just had a phenomenal time. And that's when I kind of got him to kind of come and sit in the suites with us and say, hey, you don't have to work on anything. And so we started doing that, and then it's progressed all the way through now to where part of hanging out with Mike Salinas and that whole group now. So I never got away from it. I just fell in love with the sport way back then.
Well, and that's the reason why we do what we do, because I remember those days. I'm not as old as you. I'm 54, right?
Okay.
For me, my drag racing love started when I was 7. Got dragged to this dirty old drag strip, and there was Snake and Raymond Beetle, right?
Yeah.
And the beer smell in the air and the tire smoke, and I don't know if it's just guys like us, but I was hooked from that moment, And
Robert stayed involved, and he knew everybody.
Yeah.
And he hung out with everybody. And then I got the call from him, and he said, "You got to come down to these hot rod reunions, the early ones." He goes, "All your buddies are there, And so that was it.
I hooked him in and said, "Come down here and see all your friends," and he did, and it was amazing. And we were going to the reunions from that point forward.
Do you remember? I did an interview with Steve Gibbs, and I don't remember what he told me. Was that the early 2000s when that all came about?
I want to say it was like late 90s.
It was right after Joe Paisano's funeral. The following year, I believe, is when that happened.
I think you're right.
Yeah, and I'll leave my commentary about what happened there with that on the table, but I tell you what, to see you guys and the Nitro Revival and what Steve Gibbs has done here to keep this group of people that, you guys have an amazing fraternity here. That's what it's really about. The fraternity of its family. And to see Steve bring this forward into this thing, it's impressive. So you when this car got put back together, you decided, hey, I want to be on board?
No, what happened was the car was, I came up in National Dragster, it was for sale, and Bert was sailing down in Mexico, and I sent him an email down, I said, hey, the car's in National Dragster, you want to buy it? And he goes, what for? And I said, hey, just to get it back, and I'm thinking, hey, just the wheels started churning. And then I called the guy, who was a guy in Idaho, and he had sold it, and so the car went away. And I said, well, if the deal falls through, here's my number, and I'm part of, Burkholders are my family, and about a year after that whole deal went down, the guy who bought it was a guy named Jack Polinsky out of Washington, and he called me up and said, hey, your name's not Burkholder, but everybody I'm buying parts for says I need to talk to you. Why? And I said, well, I'm part of the family. And he goes, well, I want you guys to be involved. I'm restoring that car exactly how you guys had it. We're going to match race it. Really? So I sent an email to Burke, and he told me, he goes, I don't want any part of it. He doesn't have any short wheelbase, fuel altered experience. He's going to hurt himself, and he ended up crashing it.
Oh, did he?
And he restored, the majority of the restoration on this car was done by Jack.
Okay.
And so I kind of hung out with him, went to a couple events and stuff, and then he ended up offering for us to buy it around 2008.
Okay.
And at this time, we had seen the car. We knew it was really nice, and I said, "What do you think, Burke? You want to do this?" And he said, "Yeah, let's do this." So we went up to Washington and got it.
That's cool. So, are you telling me that this car is actually competition legal?
Yeah, well, the chassis, we set the record in 71.
Yeah.
It's 31 years old.
Yep.
This car's 50 years old, so you can do the math.
Yeah, okay, I got you.
That turbines too old.
Okay, I got you.
I told Robert, if we get the car, it is never going to race. It's never going to do a burnout. I'm sorry, you know.
And he told me that, and he said, if you want to do that, then just give me my half of the money back.
Well,
but we're full-blown partners on this whole thing.
Okay.
Right from the get-go. So.
Well, that's good. All right, so I assume you guys are going to keep taking this car around. And I know it isn't just Nitro Revival and March Meet. I've seen this car other places too. And you're going to keep exhibitioning this car as long as you guys can and keep the whole thing going.
Sure.
What are you doing besides this right now?
I think, Harry and I are going to be involved in the other car, just there with those guys for sure. I mean, it's got obviously his name on it, and we want to be a little part of that.
Yeah.
A couple of guys like Dennis and stuff, they would kind of help on both cars. So it's just going to be another group of people hanging out and enjoying it. Now we get to race though, and that's exciting. We're both Harry and I are like competitive people. And this is. We have a lot of fun with this, but there's still a little racing left in our blood, I think.
Hey, I can tell you the competition for the racers hasn't died, because Herm Peterson over there walks around with his DB beater hoping he's going to kick everybody in Division 7's ass yet with the sound of his car,
Yeah,
so I love the competitive spirit. It's still alive today.
Absolutely. So fortunately for me, I'm the lucky one. Now that when we do the cackles and the push starts and stuff like that, I'm in it, and so I get a little bit of taste of fuel car. So it's been a lot of fun. Our families come out here, our friends come out. It's just you can't beat this.
I know the atmosphere here, and like I said to you, Harry, I know this isn't a one-off event here. There's going to be more Nitro Revivals, but for me, this year was the year that I absolutely needed to be here, because I don't know what the future is going to be. And
well, after 2020, I told Cindy Gibbs, I said, we needed this, all of us.
All right, we're with the third member of the Burkholder brothers team here. Dennis Scroggins is with me now. Harry just told me that this is the muscle man of the crew, and he's doing double duty with the Nostalgia Funny Car team, the Shakedown Funny Car team also, and also part of the fuel altered that's being built to be competitive too. So how'd you come on board with these guys, Dennis?
So my background is a mechanic, basically. I grew up on a farm, and I grew mechanic from my father-in-law, and on.
Yeah.
But I didn't get really involved in drag racing, except as a kid I drag raced at Kingdon drag strip, which is a few miles from our house. And so I went to one of the reunion races. I think it was the third one.
The third one, yeah.
Okay, and I saw this car, and I go, I know that car. I remember that car. And so I started talking with Harry and Robert and everything, and they were getting the car ready to start up. And I saw Robert do something, and then he walks away, and I grabbed the wrench and started wrenching on it. And I'm looking at Harry to make sure it's okay. And Robert just turned it over to me. I'd worked on a big show car and nostalgia cars in the past, and Robert had seen me over the years, so I knew what I was doing.
So let me see if I can get all of this right. You were part of the Shakedown Funny Car team that now ended up here, or is it the other way around?
Well, I was a part of the Nitroholic team at that time.
Okay.
And then I ended up working. They saw me. I made friends with them, and they were struggling. And then I ended up helping them on their car. And then I sort of planted the seed with Bill that this car might be available. And Bill grew up, same as I did, seeing the car on the wall at Tognetti's.
Yeah.
Okay. And the rest is history.
So, when you say seeing the car on the wall, are we talking about a picture? Are we talking about the picture?
Yep.
The finish line picture? Yeah.
7x3.
Is that the one that's at the NHRA museum right now?
Yes.
Okay, got it. So, I guess my question is, you've been sort of general here. What are your skills? What are you doing with the car?
Mixing fuel, making sure that it's ready, maintenance-wise.
Yep.
Questioning everything that Robert does.
and basically backing me up, because
Yes.
we get so distracted here with
Yeah.
people. And Dennis keeps an eye on exactly where we are, no loose fuel lines, and none of that.
So you're the ringleader, in other words.
Yeah. He's
The circus leader.
Yes, I'm a crew chief.
We've become great friends. And,
Yeah, I'm just part of the family now.
Well, it's all about family here.
Yes.
So, Harry was telling us about, how the evolution of how the shakedown team and the competitive car now. How are you going to be trading off duties on that? Are those cars going to be going to the same races all the time?
Some of the same.
Okay.
Some of the same, and we ain't worked that out yet.
Exactly. You're going to be a busy man. You're going to be running back and forth,
Well,
aren't you?
I've always been a utility guy on the teams that I've been on,
Yep.
because I'm a master at nothing,
Yeah.
but I know a little bit about everything.
You got to have guys like that.
And so
He's got
I
that.
fill in everywhere.
He's got that "I'll be wherever you need me" attitude.
That's
And,
good.
Yeah, and exactly. If I see something going on that they need an extra hand, I'm usually that guy.
Yeah. So, what is the shakedown team going to be running that car more than the altered is going to be running? Is that probably how that's going to happen?
Generally,
Okay.
but we still have to work that all out.
Okay. Well, what's the debut here? Are we thinking, guys? Is
Mark
it
meet.
Thinking March meet. Yep.
And hopefully it's not the March-May meet or whatever it was this last year.
Exactly.
So I'm not really up on the entire schedule of the Nostalgia series. I don't know how that all works. How many races are there actually in the program?
Well, we race at the March meet,
Yeah,
Boise,
yeah,
twice.
that's a great track.
Okay. We used to race at Seattle, but that went away. And then the reunion.
Okay,
And I think sometimes there's a race in Tucson or Phoenix.
okay,
But we're going to be, depending on how things go, we may be a part of that funny car chaos as well.
I'm going to do everything I can to get to that event because I heard that thing last year was something special.
Yeah.
So here's a question about this, since you're involved in that. The Nostalgia series, how is it doing health-wise? I mean, is it being competitive? Is it starting to money itself to death? What's happening there with it?
Well, unfortunately, we lost, the year last year, and this year we had a problem that caused us to lose this year.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be wait and see what happens.
Well, and I'm not going to discuss the ills of the NHRA, but it almost feels like the Nostalgia series is sort of heading down that same road right now with sponsorship and big dollars.
Yes. I see it ultimately breaking off and becoming something else.
Well, maybe that's
Just much like this event broke off and become something else.
maybe that's not such a bad thing.
Exactly.
With the new car, if I can put together what I've heard, we probably would. Bill probably wants both of them at the March meet.
Oh, definitely.
And then the Hot Rod reunion for sure.
Yeah.
And now over Boise, I live over in Nampa now.
Okay.
For those two events over there, the Igniter and the Nightfire event, might have both of them there.
Yeah.
So that kind of looks like the calendar for the altered and the funny car. Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
So let me just so I understand, Bowling Green is not going to be on the table then?
It's not off the table,
Okay,
but
okay.
probably not.
All right. I was hoping to get down to Bowling Green this last year, but things just came up,
Yeah.
and congratulations to Randy Bradford with his beat to hell altered over there.
Exactly.
We were hoping to have him do a startup here this weekend too, but he said he's got a couple of pistons that are freewheeling in there right now. So
And that happened. What can go wrong? It's nitro.
isn't that the truth? We're looking forward to Burkholder starting this car up. We didn't get film of it yesterday except out on the track, but today we're going to get some close-up and personal film. I want to thank everybody here in the Burkholder pit. They've been fabulous to us, and going forward, we're going to try and keep you guys informed about what's happening with the actual competitive program and with the Shakedown team, and look for Harry to be on our group and on our page. He's always hanging around there someplace. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And Harry,
Thank you.
we'll see all you guys soon. Where's Robert over there?
Thanks.